Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. We have one match left this week. It's going to be Hong Kong versus Thailand. Both teams currently sitting on a 2-1 score in the Swiss.
Yeah, in a pretty decent spot to be qualifying through if they can win here. 3-1, you only have to win one of the games in the next 2 weeks. However, a lot of teams now at 2-2. That's a little bit more scary, I would say. You're, again, on the brink of elimination, as so many strong teams have been.
I mean, it's difficult to qualify to the next stage. Let's be real here. I mean, there are a lot more than 16 teams at the start of this tournament, and we're in our 40s, and now we're going down to 16. That's a lot of cuts, and it's a good score that you've got to get to make it there. But let's take a look at these teams: Hong Kong and Thailand. Blitzchung, Kin, Loosefield, and Shai versus Dizdai, Patayo, Viper Pro, and KP.
Yeah, on Hong Kong's side there, I'd have to say Blitzchung feels, to me at least, to be the standout player, in my opinion, just in terms of recognition on the global scene. And a lot of the others there not really having made their big breakout performance thus far. And then on the other side for Thailand, I believe for both of us, we got to cast him at the Taipei Major earlier this year as the tour stop. Patayo was there, didn't do especially well, I would say, you know, a middling result, but getting through to those qualified tour stops is a very big, it's a very big accomplishment.
Something that I found particularly interesting today as I've gone through these deck lists is that there does seem to be a little twist in the Asian lists, I think, compared to the rest of the world. We were talking a little bit about Flame Geyser in Aggro Mage. That's something that we're going to see in both of these mages that we've got today, and we saw a little bit yesterday as well. But hey, picks and bans are ready. Let's take a look at them.
And jumping right in, a little bit different to what we've seen so far, with obviously not Druid being banned, not even the Quest Rogues or Death Rattle Hunters being banned. It's just straight up Warrior on either side being banned.
That's so weird.
Odd Warrior for Thailand, and a Quest Taunt Warrior as the first ban, even though for a long while Quest Warrior was looking like the weakest deck that you had to bring in the global games, because again, you need all 9 classes. I am staggered that that has been banned first.
I mean, it's strange all the way through, right? Hunter picks last for Hong Kong when it's considered one of the best classes by everyone else. Priest picks first by Thailand is also very, very different to everything else that we've seen.
It does set the tone, however, for this matchup, doesn't it? Where the best anti-aggro decks are being picked first and banned first, because it is Zoo, Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, Aggro Mage on both sides, and the Token Druid as well, which is worth pointing out. Quest Warrior against Token Druid is one of the best matchups in Hearthstone.
Right, well, let's take a look now at how these matchups are falling into place. Here you go. First up is going to be Token Druid from Blitzchung versus Shadowwalk Shaman from KP. And now, how well do you know your Token Druid now, Darren? Because it's not a deck that I've seen too much of since the expansion.
Yeah, I have to be honest, like most of Hearthstone, I've been putting my Druid efforts into the Malagos and Togwaggle variants, be it Malagos, Togwaggle, or the hybrid variant. But I think posted on the Vicious Syndicate report, which just came out this week, the top Druid deck was Token Druid. Which you kind of have to take with a little pinch of salt, because I also believe it was one of the Druids with the lower sample size when compared to Malagos Druid, which means maybe only the slightly better players are playing it, because if a deck is more popular, it means a wider portion of the community is playing it. However, it is still very much in the running for one of the better Druid decks right now.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I've seen it in various tournaments on ladder, it has done staggeringly well. It doesn't include that many new cards. I believe it's even just Giggling Inventor, possibly, which is great with Savage Roars and Branching Paths. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about Mulch Muncher when the card was announced. Like, does this go in Token Druid? Because you end up with all of the Treants dying. It does end up being a 0-mana 10/10, but I guess the list is so tight, it just can't find space for it.
Yeah, I think Ball Control even saying on stream today, he ended up cutting Giggling Inventors from his deck because he was going up against so many aggro decks, which all run the Blood Knights as well.
Ah, right, yeah. That is an issue for Giggling Inventor. Again, the card that is so good that it forces 2 tech cards into the meta. But here we go, game number 1. And, okay.
Not really the best starting hand here for Blitzchung, or for Cappy either, for that matter.
That's why my response to this was sort of just very...
rather forlorn, yeah. But again, this is the Prince Keleseth version, which is by far the most common variant at the moment. I don't think we've seen a single Pyromancer version of Shadowwalk in the HGG so far this week, which does severely hamper your matchup here. Thailand will be forced to go for much more inefficient board clears to deal with Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest, all that goodness that Druid can throw down. And as soon as you leave up just one board full of tokens, you're probably just dead.
And it's very difficult to clear these boards over and over again. I mean, Giggling Inventor is just an extra, or like almost board full that you have to worry about. The double Spreading Plague, that's an issue. Obviously, the core of the deck is the double Whispering Woods and the double Soul of the Forest. So how does Shadowwalk Shaman consistently deal with this? They got one Lightning Storm in hand, they've got one Volcano, but unless there's Pyromancers, which there don't tend to be nowadays, this deck is going to struggle.
Yes, it is going to be struggling later on. However, with the Token Druid, you have to be very careful about how you go for your big boards. Because like you said, if you go for Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest, make a massive board, they pretty much have to go double Lightning Storm or Lightning Storm Volcano, double Volcano,
yep.
Whatever they want. They have to clear off that board if you have the buffs in hand. And for Hong Kong, if they go for too early a big play onto the board with Whispering Woods and Soul of the Forest, but they have no Savage Roars or branching paths, that gives Thailand the time to clear up the board incrementally rather than just in one fell swoop, which you usually have to do.
That all being said, Blitzchung does have Nourish in his hand, and he has Ultimate Infestation. So,
yes.
You know, come turn 7, turn 8, he will be playing that UI, he will be filling up his hand with most of his deck, and at that point, you have to expect that Hong Kong do have the tools they need to win this game.
Which is why Cappy will also be trying to draw through his deck as quickly as possible to find those answers, which Hong Kong, it's worth saying here, as we've been talking a little bit more about the macro of this game, talking about the micro, have done a pretty good job of stopping Thailand from drawing. Playing the Power of the Wild here was far from an easy play. It's a very good card later on to push your board out of the range of Volcano perhaps, just push extra damage a lot of the time as well. But just stopping the Manatide Totem in its tracks here is so big here for Blitzchung. It's going to buy him a heck of a lot of time.
The Power of the Wild was also just particularly good against the way Thailand's deck has been built. There are 2 copies of Earthshocks, but no Lightning Bolts or anything. So short of a Glacial Shard freezing the Power of the Wild, which you could consider a bit of a waste, there was actually no way for Thailand to deal with it.
Well, even then, you'd freeze face, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And again here for Thailand, with that Glacial Shard picked up, do they go Freeze Face Hero Power to try and get the trade on the Panther to then set up for the Manatide Totem? It's a very slow and convoluted way of going about just playing a 3-drop.
Yeah, I mean, the only clear-cut way they've got of removing it is that Lightning Storm, and there's no way they can afford to play that.
Obviously, with no Twig in the Token Druid variants, as opposed to the Malagos or Toggle Woggle variants. So Gluttonous Ooze can just be played as a 3-mana 3/3 at some point in this matchup, which is not bad here. If it gets you the trade, you are pretty happy with that exchange.
You just said Toggle Woggle.
I did just say Toggle Woggle. I will be calling it different things every time I bring it up. See how many I can get through.
Hold you to that. Okay, actually going to freeze the Panther, just trying to prevent any damage that Cappy can for the time being. And also preventing it from trading into the Manatide.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to kill it off with your 2/1, you would Hero Power freeze the face in Hero Power.
Yep.
If you want to play it on the same turn, this is the way to go about it. Unfortunately, the punish is Swipe, which Hong Kong is very happy to throw down here. You don't have to save the face like in the Malagos versions, so you just throw it down, clear up the board, prepare yourself for a Nourish. And now for Thailand, as soon as they do start going wide on the board with Hero Powers, Electras, and this Acolyte of Pain as well, Blitzchung will very happily throw down a Spreading Plague, because we've talked about Cappy's ability to potentially deal with Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest boards. If a big Plague comes down, there is just no real ability to deal with that. But by big plague, I obviously mean like 4 or 5 Scarabs, which probably won't ever happen.
Not the one which is available to Hong Kong now. I would say this is going to be a fairly obvious Nourish, though. Hong Kong want to get to that Ultimate Infestation as soon as they possibly can. So casting the Nourish here, Do they actually cast the Arcane Tyrant, though?
The Tyrant is the thinking part of this turn, because if they do play another minion next turn, and you can get double Plague plus, 2 Scarabs and a Tyrant on board.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of scary. That can actually push some damage, or maybe, if you're really lucky, bait out a piece of removal, which is so key in this matchup.
I do feel as though hiding Arcane Tyrant behind Spreading Plague does tend to be the way to go with that card, especially in Token Druid, where again, you just want to get the biggest board you can for the Savage Roars, for the Branching Paths. Hong Kong really taking their time with this, though. Is there a play that we're missing other than Nourish? Doesn't seem like it.
None that I like, yeah. You want to get that UI down as quick as you possibly can.
Gonna go aggressive here. Play the Tyrant.
So this does have the benefit of saying immediately you just don't have an answer to this.
Yep.
It's the more consistently acceptable play. Like, it doesn't have the potential massive upside of them going wide on the board with like 3-drop hero power next turn, and then you throw down the Plague with the Tyrant. But I think this is probably a respect play from Blitzchung here, saying, I actually don't think my opponent will make the mistake of going wide on the board here, and therefore I'm just going to play down this Tyrant.
Makes sense. I mean, holding back the Tyrant is much better if you intend on playing Spreading Plague at some point soon, but Blitzchung, as you said, with respect to Thailand, believe that they're not going to play into a Spreading Plague, believe that they're not going to end up playing a Spreading Plague, and therefore Arcane Tyrant may as well just hit the board now and be as many stats as possible in the immediate future.
Hexing here is not all too painful for Thailand, though. The biggest minion in the deck is pretty much just a Violet Teacher that you're really afraid of, and that's usually going to get caught up in the crossfire, well, speak of the devil, of a Lightning Storm at a later date.
Does Violet Teacher just come down now? Because Violet Teacher into Soul of the Forest is worth considering. However, like you were saying before, if you start playing Soul of the Forest without the means of actually killing your opponent, it doesn't really do all that much.
Yeah, I reckon you'd probably just go Teacher Spellstone, right?
Yeah, that's probably better.
If you get another cheap spell, then you can just go Soul of the Forest because you have a very wide board.
Yeah.
But if you do get traded off here, or you just end up with a few 2/2s on board, that's not winning you the game. So you want to be very careful with how you use this Soul of the Forest.
Right. I mean, Violet Teacher isn't usually the main win condition anyway. She can sort of go up there as a medium-sized threat for now, just to stall out until the Ultimate Infestation gets played in 2 turns' time, and then later on, a big Whispering Wood Soul of the Forest will be the finisher.
Hong Kong are playing a copy of Innovate in this deck, so we could potentially see, if the Violet Teacher did come down on this turn, Innovate Ultimate Infestation next turn. However, they're going to be taking it slow, valuing the Violet Teacher a little bit more heavily. Again, saying that they don't think their opponent will ever go wide on the board enough to get any more than 1 Scarab here.
And it does make life difficult for Thailand here, because that 1/5 Scarab can only be dealt with the Hex. Or again, the Volcano, which Cappy just can't afford to waste here.
Oh, it's still such a weird turn for Blitzchung. Like, I'm not at all saying that this is the wrong play. I'm really trying to figure out what the best use of those cards was, because it's not like you're just throwing away Spellstone as if it's a completely useless card just to clear off a 0/2 and make a 1/1. That could be a good card in this matchup. If you snipe off an Acolyte or a Manatide when it's hidden behind Taunts, or any other plethora of very strong cards, it's a valuable resource here indeed.
There is little time.
So, despite how annoying Hong Kong's board is, it's not an immediate threat. There's no combination of cards that kills Cappy, so yeah, just ignore it, play the Acolyte. And now Blitzchung's going to get to do what you suggested, especially with 2 Violet Teachers. Double Violet Teacher into Spellstone to deal with the Acolyte. The 2 Violet Teachers, the 2 tokens, and then potentially next turn, Soul of the Forest could be playable, though Ultimate Infestation is going to be on the top of everyone's minds.
And then what's the punish for Hong Kong if they do go double Violet Teacher? Double Lightning Storm? Brilliant. You've then just dealt with the 2 best cards in your opponent's deck. If they go for Lightning Storm Volcano, again, you've still dealt with 2 of the best cards in the deck. This is just a play that can't really go that wrong for Blitzchung.
So what about Electra Storm? Because then that still leaves a second Lightning Storm and both Volcanoes in the deck to deal with things later. It's not ideal for Cappy, don't get me wrong, but... And it's also not 100%. If it rolls 2 twice on the Violet Teacher, then it survives.
Yeah, or on any of the 5 health minions.
Well, yeah.
Like you said, it's far from certain. You can't even fit in a hero power beforehand.
They can fit in an Earth Shock afterwards, but they'd prefer to play a 1-mana Saronite Chain Gang, I should imagine.
You kind of just have to go for it, though.
Yeah.
I think. With the fact that you don't have Lightning Storm Volcano available to you yet, and even if you did, you don't want to go for something like that.
Cappy will be expecting an Ultimate Infestation in the hand, but I mean, for all he knows, it could be double Savage Roar. He has to do something.
Potentially looking at double Lightning Storm to save for Electra into Volcano.
Okay.
Is worth considering.
That's 27 damage on the board.
There is little time.
But I think Electra Storm Surge into Lightning Storm here, it makes more stats onto the board because you also get a 3/3, and Lightning Storm Volcano will do the same job later.
Yeah.
As we see...
Oh, only 1/3 on the vital target.
One Teacher at 3 health, another one surviving, could be very impactful here, as the Teacher does survive here, which is pretty good for Blitzchung. Even if it just ends up in another 1/1 being generated, who knows? It's called Token Druid for a reason. You don't need many to make quite a lot happen.
Wild Growth is picked up now. I guess they have to at least talk about playing Wild Growth, because that's 2 tokens summoned, then Soul of the Forest after would be an extra token summoned, and they all get to turn into 2/2s. If the correct spell is drawn, that could be good as well, but come on, it is Ultimate Infestation.
You have 10 mana, it's Ultimate Infestation. Yeah, that's the counter-argument to any other play on this turn.
Yep.
Because what if you don't draw anything good? Then you're just left in a really dire spot, and you want to be using your cards when the synergy is actually there. Token Druid is a deck where you want to draw cards often a lot more than the other the other Druids, because even though drawing a lot of cards is pivotal to the end game of Malagos Druid, in the mid game your cards still do a lot of stuff, whether you have lots of them or few of them in Malagos or Togwaggle. This deck, you need a high hand size to go for the plays like Whispering Soul of the Forest, a bunch of buffs, all that goodness.
Hong Kong just drew back-to-back Savage Roar, Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest, Ultimate Infestation. That seems like a pretty good combination of cards to me.
I would most assuredly take that. Ooh, even Power of the Wild as well.
You can play Whispering Woods, Power of the Wild, Soul of the Forest.
I think you probably hold back on the Power of the Wild because you're expecting a Lightning Storm to kill it off anyway.
Yeah.
Does it protect you against Volcano? Actually, if they just go...
One Lightning Storm has already been played, though.
Yes, but like, if you stick a board of 1/1s, you're winning the game anyway, right? Because you can just play Power of the Wild next turn.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
I think it's just the more consistent play.
All right, well, let's go. Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest. Deal with this twice, Cappy. Cappy's not looking too happy. Well, actually, he is looking quite happy.
He's not a happy Cappy. Well, I mean, he has drawn pretty much every good card in this matchup. Yeah. Electra, double Lightning Storm, Volcano, even these Earth Shocks are pretty good. This is like the best hand that you could have gotten as Shadowwalk Shaman.
So can he afford to just deal with 2 of these minions by Earth Shocking them? Does he survive then? Deal with 2 of the 1/1s, that leaves 5 minions on the board. Say on average, double Savage Roar or double branch, or 1 Savage Roar, 1 Branching Pass is what they've got. So all of the Wisps become 5 attack, the Frog becomes 4 attack. Yeah, he's still just dead for Earthshocks 2.
Yeah, in which case he kind of has to go Lightning Storm into Volcano. Oh wait, does that even work? You'd have to go Volcano first into Lightning Storm, because there's 7... Yeah, that would clear it off. Volcano into Lightning Storm. But it's not great, because then your next turn sucks. Your opponent has complete initiative on the board. But it's just not really a choice from where Thailand is sat.
He actually could have played Earthshock, Rumble, and replayed the Saronite to get 2 taunts.
Is he planning on getting lucky here and having his Saronite survive? Oh no, okay, yeah, he's trading him first. The animations, it looked like he was just banking on the fact that his Saronite had 3 health to stay alive. But the full board clear, whether you go Volcano or Lightning Storm, doesn't matter as long as you clear everything up. you're pretty happy.
Now, luckily for Cappy, there's no second Whispering Woods in the hand, and both Violet Teachers have been played already, so for now, Hong Kong cannot just immediately win the game. However, Malfurion is one of the best pickups available to them right now. Just slam that down and start dealing 3 damage every single turn, whilst also developing 2 more 1/5s that do have to be dealt with. We see Savage Roar, Double Branching Paths, and Innovate all present in Blitzchung's hand. I mean, that's a 6 damage buff to both of the minions.
Yeah, so that's another 12 attack next turn.
Plus 2 on
plus
the face
the 2.
as well.
Yeah, so 14 damage next turn after he will have been brought down to 15 on this turn. We could even see
16 damage next turn because the face gets to attack as well, and the 1 attacks that the Scabs already have.
it wouldn't have the mana though, right, to go.
Yeah, the Savage Roar buffs the face.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. Sorry, my mistake.
So it is actually... Oh, okay. If he played Hero Power at the face this turn, that would have been setting up lethal, but this does it just as well.
This does do it just as well, as Volcano here for Cappy can keep them alive still. Even in this darkest of scenarios, they still have the ability to survive, because again, they've drawn every card they need to survive, and they're still in a pretty bad spot.
And they just have to Volcano here as well, right? I don't think there's any question about it. Short of playing double Earth Shock. Oof. They do have Hagatha to deal with one more board later, but can't deal with the Whispering Woods and Soul of the Forest with her.
But you can't deal with Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest ever from this point on, because you only have one source of removal. And again, Volcano does not kill off minions from the Death Rattle, just in case anyone's unsure of the interaction. The spell resolves, then minions actually die.
Giggling Inventor is another very strong card right now.
Yep. However, oh no wait, you can't go Hagatha Earthshock because you're overloaded.
Yeah.
Ooh. So on the next turn it would just have to be Hagatha. It deals with the 2/1 at least.
And gains some armor as well, which is necessary against the double Savage Roar Branching Paths or double Branching Path Savage Roar, which is available to Hong Kong.
Yeah, you hopefully just don't get giggled to death at that point, but you don't have much choice in the matter.
Doesn't sound like a great way to die, does it?
No. I mean, we don't have to imagine. It's what's happening to me every day on ladder.
I wonder what Blitzchung is considering here. I guess giggling into Soul of the Forest just sets up a pretty much guaranteed lethal next turn. Yeah, I mean, how does Thailand counter that?
Yeah, I think they're just counting up.
That's how they counter it.
Yeah, and you know, I think I was in the same boat as them, where I was thinking at first, you just always save this for the Branching Path. Oh, sorry, for the Whispering Woods. But you can't afford to be as rigid in this deck, can you? You have to react to the situation to make sure you always have the ability to fight back.
The Sanai Chain Gang is one of the best draws in the deck right now. They can Hero Power. If they get Spell Damage Totem, they can play both Earthshocks on the Annoyatrons and just deal with them immediately, and then drop the Saronite, putting 2 taunts up.
I mean, that's how they win this, right?
Yep.
That's how they pull back. Even then, I would say they're still not necessarily in the best spot.
But then, so as both Soul of the Forest has been played, then when Hong Kong plays Whispering Woods, they can play Hagatha to deal with that. Actually, this may be a turning point here if Thailand can survive over the next couple of turns.
There's still that hero power coming face every turn.
They got it!
What?
This, okay, so just, Earthshock both Annoyatrons, play the Saronite. Cappy should be safe against pretty much everything.
There's still that damage coming through to face every turn though, right? Off the Malfurion hero power.
Well, Saronite does block 2 of these attacks.
It does block 2, and Hagatha does heal back up for 5.
Right.
I don't know. Somehow this is starting to turn up for Thailand.
I mean, if Shadow Walk is drawn soon, then... Oh, okay, Spreading Plague is one of the best cards.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for here, right? This has very limited answers, because you could go Spreading Plague...
Branching Paths.
Yeah, Branching Paths double attack clears off one of them.
Yeah,
you are then still somewhat weak to Hagatha, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, and if they just want to deal with one Saronite, they can play Spreading Plague Hero Power.
Spreading Plague Hero Power and then don't attack in, I guess. With the 2/1.
Yeah. It's probably slightly better.
Yeah, because it plays around Hagatha as much as possible. You still have a 2/2 and a 1/5 on board, which is a lot of damage.
As stupid as that sentence was, it's actually very true.
But for Thailand then, they don't have to go for Hagatha, right? They can just go Grumble.
Yep.
If even one of these Saranites is left on board, you go Grumble, replay the Saranite, and then follow up with Hagatha after you've cleaned up the board a little bit with your Saranites.
I mean, the moment, like I said, the moment Shadow Walk is drawn, things are looking really good for Cappy now. Cappy can just fit in Hagatha and then play Shadow Walk after that, bounce one back to the hand, then they get 2 Hagatha effects a turn in theory.
Yeah, this is the play that Blitzchung goes for, trying to protect himself as much as possible against the Hagatha. Thailand look like they are gearing up, as we mentioned, for the Grumble, trying to soften up the board.
I wake once more.
Grumble itself is a pretty big threat.
It is indeed. Again, you're not running Naturalizers in Token Druid, so no real answer to that right now.
Both Threading Plagues have been played also.
However, because there was no answer to any of these minions here, with Spellstone picked up as well, this could be quite a lot of damage. As you could go double Branching Paths for 3 for so if you go 3 for attack and 1 for armor, and then you go Hero Power, Innovate, Spellstone, you deal with both the guys, give all your guys +3 attack, so then that would be 9 and 4, which is 13 damage to face, I think.
Okay, so my question is that good enough? Is 13 damage to face now good enough? I guess Cappy only has 2 cards in hand, and one of them is the Wrath of Air Totem. So
it does then mean that Hagatha would not actually be able to clear the board then completely, which is a big deal because 1 token with Savage Roar ramps up your damage pretty big time.
That's true. Looks like they may be going for it. Not much time left though.
Yeah, it does look like they're going for it. Potentially not both Branching Paths. I'll go in with the Savage Roar instead. The same basic principle.
Well, it's 2 more damage, isn't it? Because the face gets to attack in.
Oh, Blitzchung looking like he might have messed this up though. And Savage Roar, he doesn't get the face attack damage here.
Yeah.
Did he miss an attack? Ooh,
no! 4 damage!
1 whole Scarab missed, and this is where communications breakdowns can be so devastatingly important. The Healing Rain picked up as well.
So, okay, is Healing Rain better than Hagatha here? If Grumble trades into the 2/5 Scarab, Hagatha does deal with the other one and the Giggling. It does leave just a 2/2 on board, and Thailand ends up with 15 health. 1 Savage Roar, 1 Branching Path's already used, so the second Branching Path and the second Savage Roar is only, what, 6 extra damage when you count the face as well, and that's not quite good enough for lethal. With the extra 3 damage from the Hero Power, that's 9. Cappy's going to be on 15 if they go that route.
Maybe you do want to save the Hagatha for the extra the extra Whispering Woods though. Right. Maybe that's the one way you lose from here.
That's true.
But then you are taking so much damage if you do that. Like, you're leaving so many tokens on the board.
They just have to Hagatha here. They've got a Farsight in hand. They've only got 9 cards left in the deck. Shadow Walk is looming somewhere, and that in itself will be a second Hagatha, or at least the battle cry.
Yeah, good point, good point. I liked the hesitation, but in the end, it's just too valuable. Yeah.
Just no harm in playing this Wrath of Air Totem either. You know, there's definitely no hand size issues. Glacial Shard, a fantastic draw from the Acolyte.
That's the nuts. Even Ancestral Healing, if they could have got that down on the Grumble, which it doesn't look like they did, would also have been massive. And Oaken Summons for Hong Kong does do nothing. They don't have a Ironwood Golem, as was sometimes teched into this deck.
Just the 2 Violet Teachers, which are both long gone. Oh, I cannot believe what I'm seeing, but it looks like Thailand's going to take this one.
Blitzchung, however, still at 45 health points here. Can just keep sending that Hero Power through to face, praying that no Healing Rain is found, but we can just clearly see it's right there.
Oh, they're having to draw with Branching Paths. That leaves them with 1 Savage Roar for damage. They're hoping that their single copy of Whispering Woods plus Savage Roar will be enough to win the game, but I guess it's possible with Hagatha played, but again, the moment Shadow Walk is drawn, it's just game over. Not even for the Shadow Walk win condition, but just for the board clear.
Yeah, Hong Kong slowing down again there because they realize with the Nourish drawn, they don't really need to draw another card on the branching paths, but none of the other options do anything. Gaining armor isn't important, and maybe if, you know, Whispering Woods is right at the bottom of your deck, this extra card draw might matter. Who knows? Cappy here, a little bit upset as he sees, or I would imagine at least, as he sees Grumble taken out because Ancestral Healing was not played in time. For both players here, roping out has cost them fairly dearly here, I would say. Much more for Hong Kong because that extra damage through to face, what was it, 4 damage they missed? Yeah. That could have been big.
It doesn't look yet like it would have made all of the difference, but we're not at the end of the game yet. And if at any point Blitzchung are 4 damage short, then yeah.
I mean, it may not look in this instance like it would, but if the healing rain wasn't there, swipe face, hero power face, maybe even a UI 3 to face later on as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Could have got there.
But now this healing rain is massive, and just trading in the Glacier Shard into the 2-2 means that the maximum damage should be 1 Savage or 1 swipe and a hero power, which isn't nearly enough to win the game now.
As this deck has kind of just transitioned over into being Tempo Shadowwalk Shaman now with the unstable evolutions. The Hagatha hero power as well, providing all the value needed.
How big can this Wrath of Air Totem get? Oh, I know, okay.
Yeah, you take that, right?
Just
and then you can even trade in the 2-1. Yep.
To evolve it again. Ooh.
No battle cry to game the Death Rattle on the Seeping Oozling.
Oh,
as these are some very underwhelming options available.
Oh, that'll work.
That's a little bit more like it, though. You quite happily gobble up the Lich King here.
We got there. We got to the good one.
Almost out of cards.
And there is the Whispering Woods for Hong Kong. This is their one and only chance. And it just doesn't look like it gets there, right?
So, okay, Hong Kong's final card is the Savage Roar. Isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
A tangled web.
Which just still doesn't get there. Even if all 7 were buffed, that's 21 damage going face.
Well, he's only getting 4 summoned, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay, best case scenario, it's 26 damage going face, including the hero power. And that's if all 7 were summoned, which, as you said, they're not. So this damage is just never getting there, like you said. Unless it survived for several turns and the 1/1's dealt a lot of damage, but it's just not happening.
Well, first port of call is praying there's no Death and Decay, which, you know, he's got that.
Or Doom Pact, even.
I think you probably would have Doom Pact a couple of 1/1s at the risk of losing your Shadowwalk, but I guess even then you're probably winning, right?
Still win the value game, don't they, with Hagatha and the Life Drinkers, potentially?
Start off with a couple of Life Drinkers, see what you get. Maybe a Beaked Lightning to just lock out the game.
They're just not dead here in any way, so may as well just drop the Life Drinkers, exactly. Can even Ancestral Healing one if they want. Interesting you mentioned Beaked Lightning. Actually, Hong Kong Shadowwalk Shaman has been banned, but that runs a copy of Beaked Lightning.
It does indeed.
It's not something we've seen much of.
Hey, elementary reaction isn't bad. If you're not dying, just get yourself closer to that Shadowwalk.
Yep.
Because like you mentioned earlier on, the Hagatha Battle Cry safely stored within the Shadowwalk, ready to go to just lock out this game, which, I mean, they've already basically won, right?
Yeah, they have.
Just not enough value in the token.
And it's amazing, because as you kept saying, Derek, they drew all of the cards they needed. They drew both Volcanoes, they drew both Lightning Storms, they drew Electra. Even the double Earth Shock with the spell damage totem worked out perfectly for Thailand. They shouldn't have won this game on paper, but hey, this has been quite convincing.
Thailand obviously still somewhat fearful, just trying to count what cards could possibly be left for my opponent, and Blitzchung throws it down. Losing an unfavorable matchup like that one, losing a favorable matchup, for Blitzchung there is a pretty miserable way to get the game rolling.
And this does sort of shape the future of this series into Thailand's favor as well. If we take a look at the matchup that we have coming up next, it's going to be Zoo Warlock versus Control Priest, which again, it does come down to Duskbreaker being drawn, I guess, but quite often the Priest will take this.
They will, but actually in just the last series that we watched between Australia and Peru, it was this exact matchup. Australia hit the Duskbreaker on the Control Priest. We're looking at a great spot, blew up the entire board. But for their opponents, Peru managed to draw a Keleseth buffed chain gang off the top, which was pretty much their one draw to keep them in the game, and they just kind of smashed it and ended up winning.
Well, there you go. It can happen. I mean, when you draw Keleseth nice and early, it does boost your win rate by a little bit in every deck, in every matchup in Hearthstone.
Yeah, the laws of physics just stop applying at that point.
Yeah. But as far as these lists go, I believe everything's pretty standard. It's what you'd expect. Solarium, Doubling Imp, etc. being the big new cards that you want to keep an eye on. And Soul Infusion is the other one there. Okay, so we saw the Zoo Warlock win with the Saronite Chain Gang. Do you think that's kind of the combo here? It's cards like Keleseth or Soul Infusion into Saronite, into Doubling Imp, that make this matchup winnable for the Zoo?
Well, for the Zoo, I think the main game plan is just doing what you always do. You want to be playing fairly value-oriented, tapping as much as possible so that you can refill after the board clears come down, like the Duskbreaker. But by the same merit, if you play too slowly, then you run the risk of going into a big Psychic Scream turn, and then all your board gets shuffled back in, possibly with a couple of really underwhelming minions for your deck, like the Northshire Clerics and the Wild Pyromancers, as well if the Priest throws them on the board first. So you do have to find the right balance of speed in this game, where you're going for early board control, but still tapping, not too quick, not too slow.
Yeah.
But if you get it right, you should be in a decent position here.
It's definitely a difficult balance to get, though. I mean, you can get into the late game where Shadow Reaper Anduin can do some silly things. The Zoo can definitely fatigue themselves. Zoo is one of these classes that I guess through the history of Hearthstone does get fatigued more often than anything else because they tap so much.
Yes, I don't expect this to happen. No. I would imagine that Shy will have too many cards shuffled back into his deck through Psychic Scream. But with the way it's looking here, it's probably going to be over one way or the other.
That's
here. With
Keleseth.
Prince Keleseth in hand, you probably throw away the rest of the cards, looking for Happy Ghouls, I guess, Flame Imp, Kobold Librarians. Just something that synergizes a little bit better with Prince Keleseth.
For Thailand, they're having to throw away everything. They got Pyromancer, they got Shadow Visions. Okay, this is reasonable.
Yeah, they didn't have to throw away everything there. Twilight Drake, I think, is not a bad keep here, both because it's an acceptable minion to throw down on turn 4 to start fighting back for board, and it protects, it activates your Duskbreaker, which it's not like the old combo Dragon Priest days, where if you got a Duskbreaker, you pretty much always had an activator for it. It was very rare to find yourself in a situation where you were just playing a 4-mana 3/3. But there's not all that many dragons in modern Control Priest. You have to prepare for the fact that your Duskbreaker, when drawn, may just not activate.
Keleseth, though, played already, not something that Thailand are going to have wanted to see at all there. They sort of have to sit around and do nothing for now. They could Shadow Visions, I guess, try and get a powered shield or something, but it doesn't seem good. Dropping Cleric is fine, though. It doesn't die to the Keleseth. It can potentially card next turn. It dies to Soulfire, though, and it's looking actually like the Priest dies to the Warlock at the moment.
Yeah, Shy, I guess, could go for the Soulfire, but I think this is the point where you want to start tapping, right? Like,
yeah.
This hand is very underwhelming. Voodoo Doctor is better saved for healing up a more impactful minion. I guess getting a 2-1 down here is fine, but this is looking like you're going to be taking it a little bit slower in this matchup. You've just found a Chain Gang. So you can go for double 3/4 on turn 4.
Oh dear, there goes the card that Shy wanted to play this turn. That slows things right down for now. Again, when the Saronite is played, they are the 3/4s. That is going to be a big swing turn for Shy, like we saw in the game in the last series. Distai has nothing to do here. Could he consider just dropping the Pyromancer and forgetting its effect? Knowing that most of, well, the Hong Kong's deck has been buffed by Keleseth, Pyromancer isn't as effective anymore, as they're going to need one more proc to deal with every single minion.
Well, they'll definitely be considering it here. I mean, it's not bad, right? There's very few actual board buff cards now in this matchup. It's mostly just the hand buff cards through the Soul Infusion that you have that's so powerful in this deck. But I think you don't really want to throw it down, right? Just going for it on a much later turn. You can go Twilight Drake next turn. There's a little bit more like it.
Voidwalker's a great draw here. It allows Shy to tap
Yeah, you
in
definitely tap.
addition to playing a minion, which is exactly what he needs to be doing now.
And it doesn't even die to Duskbreaker. Like, if you go for Fungal Enchanter here, they're probably fairly happy to Duskbreaker your board. But Voidwalk here is just perfect with the hero power.
Solarium. A little bit early. Again, it's quite a slow start, but at some point that card is going to allow Shy to go berserk.
And I think here for Shy, like, the Solarium is probably just going to be a dig for lethal card in the mid-game, because if they go for it on like turn 6 or something after they've dealt a bunch of damage with these chain gangs, Shy's going to be doing a lot of damage here and could, as I said, just be searching for lethal with a Doomguard picked up as well. This is mighty scary for Thailand.
Lorinda would like this Sudeck, as it has Doomguards in it.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, isn't it? I think it's still one that I would need to hear a lot more opinions on, because I basically just hear very good players that I respect on both sides of the argument, and I don't know who to believe.
I mean, Lorinda is very firmly on the Doomguard side, so you should probably believe the Leroy players.
Fair enough. You so often see the situation where Doomguard is thrown down and it discards the Soulfires for lethal, and you do want to be going for those lethals with the Doomguards, because when just played to discard 2 cards, it's not that good. It's fine.
Like, Doomguard and Solarium in the hand is a little bit awkward together, because now Hong Kong aren't going to be able to use the Solarium later to dig for lethal because Doomguard's there, so if they draw another Doomguard, it discards the first one, but this Doomguard could discard the Solarium. It's just a bit clunky.
I mean, there is some synergy between the Solarium and Doomguard, though, where you can just draw with Solarium, play maybe one or two of the cards, and then play the Doomguard to try and discard the cards that you're going to discard anyway at the end of the turn. So it, can be all right at a later date. But that's a very expensive play. That's what you're looking to do on like turns 9 or 10, I think.
Disdae doing a great job of getting herself on the board now, though, with the Twilight Drake. They're sticking around. Difficult for Hong Kong to do anything about that. I mean, I guess Hong Kong could just play Doomguard here, but that plays into Duskbreaker a little bit if they just trade the Doomguard in. Actually, does it? Doomguard's a 5/8, isn't it? Or a 6/8.
Yeah, wouldn't be playing into Duskbreaker too heavily, I suppose. But then if you're double trading into the 3/4 as well, then you're only left with a 6/1 on the following turn if Duskbreaker were to come down. So the alternatives are you could double trade into the Twilight Acolyte with your 2 2/4s, then Fungal Enchanter, maybe with a tap as well even.
Could you not just play Doomguard and go face with everything? Maybe trade the Keleseth into the Twilight Drake so that or the Acolyte so that Duskbreaker deals with one of Thailand's own minions?
I mean, I think you'd just let it destroy its own health total here, right? Because it would still have to trade into one of the 2/4s.
Sure.
As 2 pretty decent minions to discard are thrown down.
Yep, Solarium's still sitting there in hand. It now can dig for lethal. There you go, yeah. I like this this hedge play. Doomguard trades, everything else goes face. Duskbreaker doesn't do all that much here.
As the play that could be made on this turn now in response for Thailand before Psychic Scream come down could be Pyro, Shield, Visions to look for another shield and play that shield.
Oh, that would be insane.
What, a 3 damage sweep? Oh, it's just shy of doing what it needs to do, but what other choice do you have?
Doesn't run any copies of... Oh! No. No. Okay.
No copies of Silence?
Hong Kong's deck does run Silence.
Oh, interesting.
So that potentially would get them there, but...
No Power Word Shield found.
No Divine Hymn found, even.
Or Disdae. Yeah, these are not the options you're looking for. Even a Psychic Scream to just go double Scream on the next couple of turns. It actually didn't get any worse than this, I think. So you take the Visions to search again and just accept that you're doing 2 damage to the board.
Holy Fire. Surely they have to play Powered Shield here.
You could just heal face, actually, couldn't you? You've got the play set out for the next couple turns of Psychic Scream into Primordial Drake. Powered Shield does kill off 1 health from the board, but it also kills off a 3/1.
Yeah.
I think I like this a little bit more. Powered Shield could be good later on.
Oh my goodness, the second Saronite Chain Gang drawn there. 4 mana 3/4s. Oof. Okay, well there is a Psychic Scream available for Thailand now, and that's something Hong Kong are going to be thinking about as we go into turn 7. So,
it's a tap turn, right? If you're expecting your opponent to clear your board, you want to spend your mana on something other than developing minions.
Second 6/8 Doomguard, that's great for Hong Kong. So what about a fungal enchanter?
Yeah, I think that
Heal
has to
everything,
be the play, right?
make the value trades and go face with Doomguard.
Because maybe your opponent is setting up for a Dustbreaker. It's not necessarily a Psychic Scream that they're heading towards.
Many possibilities.
Yeah, and fungal enchanter plays around Dustbreaker pretty well by allowing the
exactly.
Doomguard to survive. And this Doomguard is going to represent lethal very soon. Are the cheat minions even trading, or they just go face at this point? No, they just go face at this point. Okay, yeah, 10 health remaining. I like it.
As the old Dustbreaker is found, which means
Pyromancer as well. That's a 4 damage board clear. With
Power Word Shield, trade in the...
Powered Shield, Mind Blast,
yeah.
Dustbreaker. That's a board clear.
That is just a board clear. You don't even need to Powered Shield, because you could trade in the Twilight Acolyte and then trade in your Pyromancer into the Doomguard and then just Dustbreaker.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
If you wanted to fit in the heal to face as well. And it is worth considering. But then you need to think, are boards later on in this going to be more difficult to clear than this? Or is this the best use of Psychic Scream? Because later on, Dustbreakers will be able to clear up the board even more effectively.
I think not Psychic Screaming a Doomguard back into the deck is probably quite beneficial for Thailand here. Like actually just getting rid of it.
Yeah, you get a 3/3 on board as well. I think I like the Dustbreaker route. You're going to do it though. You've got to get moving pretty quickly here for Dizdai, as he does just end up ripping the Psychic Scream. Oh no, wait, you would... Oh, your 3/1 would die off. Oh, I'm such a...
Well, no, because you trade the 3/1 first, then Power would shield the Pyromancer.
Oh, yeah, you trade it first. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
But now this is a great refresh for Hong Kong. Sana Chengang doubling Imp, 3/4s and 3/3s. It's not even that weak to Duskbreaker. Yeah, okay, the doubling dies, but Sana Chengangs can go face for 6, and the Doomguard would be lethal if Duskbreaker Hero Power is the play here. This looks like a much better Psychic Scream board to me.
Yeah, it does to me as well. You would have had a 3/3 on board with this play as well, so you could have, well, actually trade in and Primordial Drake wouldn't have been that good.
Dizdai survives if he plays the Primordial Drake now, doesn't he? Like Doomguard plus a 3/3 trades in and then 9 damage goes face.
Yeah.
Meddlesome insects.
The message was a him here. It looks like he is just dead. Could still draw a him here.
Got another draw for it. I don't think there's anything else that can save Thailand here, right?
Nope, that's going to be it. Shai is going to take this. So that's the second game in a row where Zoo has defeated Control Priest. Maybe we should be reevaluating this matchup.
Well, maybe we should just be thinking, it turns out Keleseth on turn 2 is pretty good in any matchup. Just meant so many of these minions that had absolutely no business surviving Dustbreakers. Big explosion of purple fire ended up surviving anyway and delivered for Shai there a pretty nice lethal.
It's worth noting in the world where the Duskbreaker was played that previous turn and the Psychic Scream was held back, they would have survived a little bit longer. That game wasn't over immediately. But hey, we said it at the start, Keleseth's strong card, huh? After the break, we are going to have Odd Rogue versus Token Druid as the next game. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few moments. It's the last match of the week. It's Hong Kong versus Thailand. The score is 1-1, and both teams are 2-1 in the Swiss. Winning this series will take them to 3-1, which is a very safe, well, a safer position in the Hearthstone Global Games than 2-2 at least. But now, Derek, it's Odd Rogue versus Token Druid. What do you expect to see here?
I think I would expect to see, as usually happens for the Odd Rogue, you're just struggling against Druids. They have a lot of really nice removal cards in the early game through the use of Spellstone, Swipe, and they can get up to those cards very quickly because of cards like Innovate, although I don't believe Thailand are running the Innovate in this list. It's more just cards they're relying on, like Giggling Inventor, Spellstone, even Power of the Wild for a 3/2 if desperate, and then obviously Oaken Summons, which is the real difference I find with the Token Druids as opposed to Malagos or Togwaggle Druids, because even when you're just summoning a Violet Teacher instead of a Ironwood Golem, it's so much armor you're gaining, such a strong play onto the board as well.
Myra's Unstable Element has caught my eye already, though. Is there any way that's being kept? Could that be the card that makes the difference, Derek?
I don't think so. I think you're more looking for the traditionally good against Druid cards, like Hench Clan Thug, Vicious Fledgling, maybe a Fungal Mancer as well, if you already have a decent curve. Or maybe even a Vilespine. If you are expecting Violet Teacher on curve, that is a very nice way to deal with it. But I guess that's a pretty specific call, right? You need to get the rest of your hand sorted first, then follow up.
So we see Void Rippers in Lucifield's Odd Rogue. That's something that we're not seeing in every version of the deck nowadays. Okay, one Void Ripper, double Blood Knight at the tech cards.
Yeah, that's fairly understandable, I would say. They've cut what some of the other tech cards that would sometimes go in. They still have 2 Giggling Inventors, but like no Cobalt Scalebanes. Fairly standard list, like you said. But this hand that they have managed to find themselves with is looking to be a pretty good one. Firefly into Cold Blood, or even just Coin Fledgling, I guess, depending on what they see. If they were to see a Wild Growth from Viper Pro on this turn, it would probably be the Flame Elemental Cold Blood they go for to play around Swipe on the following turn.
Okay.
But if they don't see it, Coin Fledgling is very much worth considering because it's only Spellstone Hero Power which could take it out. Which is actually quite bad because that is a 3-mana play, so maybe they do just go for Flame Elemental Cold Blood no matter what.
So from Hong Kong's Token Druid earlier, we did see Power of the Wild played on turn 2. However, against the Odd Rogue, obviously it's very weak to the weapon. So I was going to say, do they ever consider playing it to force Lucifield to play the weapon next turn and prevent a coin 3 drop? But weapon into Hench Clan Thug is probably the ideal curve anyway, so I don't know if that's something Viper Pro would want to prevent.
I mean, it is worth considering because it doesn't do much with this hand, right? You have no way of generating a wide board yet. And like you said, it forces them to do this. They can't go for 1-drop Cold Blood here. They can't go for Coin into Fledgling, which were by far the 2 best plays available.
They can go into Coin SI7 Agent, which is now looking like a very strong play indeed. But maybe just daggering up is better.
You go Dagger, Coin Cold Blood here, which curves into the Vicious Fledgling quite nicely.
Only weak to the Spellstone, but if Viper Pro is using a Spellstone on this, then it's
not going on the Fledgling.
Yep.
And then they need exactly Spellstone into Swipe to be able to deal with all of that. I think I like it.
I think you've talked me around to that play now, yeah.
So many options.
Because you get a Dagger and a 5-2 instead of a 3-3.
Okay, go the SS7 Agent. I mean, this is the obviously strong play, isn't it? You stick a 3-3 on the board, you deal with a 3-2 for free.
Yeah, and if they did have Spellstone, it would obviously be pretty bad for you there. And they wouldn't have played it so far because you don't just want a Spellstone and 1-2. You want a Spellstone something more impactful.
Now Viper Pro does have Wild Growth available. It's 1 turn too late. Imagine if they played it last turn and were curving into Oaken Summons now.
Oh yeah, that would be a little bit silly, I think it's fair to say.
Just be pretty regular Druid things, wouldn't it?
I think you kind of have to go for it here for Thailand, though. They're thinking about hero powering the 1-2, I guess, to set up for a more powerful swipe, which they will very possibly be playing next turn if they are met with a Fledgling or a Hench Clan. I think either of which would come down, even with the dagger not being equipped. But when are you playing Wild Growth in the next few turns if you don't play it now? Because then you're going Swipe or Oaken Summons next turn, and then the one that you didn't play on the turn after, which means you're not playing it for like 3 turns here. And getting mana early is just so crucial.
Wow, just gonna hero power, okay. That is a surprise. What's the thinking behind this one, Derek?
Well, they want to kill off a minion that, so there's less stuff to be cold-blooded, I guess, because now neither minion is a good cold-blood target at all here for Lucifield.
So that's up a good swipe for next turn, I suppose. Even if Fledgling is played, that can be swiped. Hench Clan is only going to be a 3-3 regardless, because the dagger's not on the board yet.
And the thinking also is, you don't actually do anything with the mana next turn. The difference between 4 and 5 is obviously nothing at the moment for Thailand. And the only pickup that would make a difference is exactly Spellstone, which is a 2 of in the deck, so it's a 1 in 12 to get a card that actually makes an immediate impact from the Wild Growth.
Or Nourish, I guess. However, that doesn't do anything to the board.
Okay, fair point. But I think you're probably going to be forced into playing Oaken Summons or Swipe next turn.
Yeah.
Nourish would have felt a little bit too slow.
It's going to be the Swipe, isn't it? With Fledgling coming down, that it has to be dealt with.
Yeah, you have absolutely no choice. If you leave up the Fledgling, you pretty much just die. I mean, okay, I don't want to say that. You always have a choice in Hearthstone. You don't have to do anything. Because Oaken Summons here would put a nice minion on the board, which you could potentially fight back with. But if they get Wind Fury into Divine Shield, or Stealth, or +3 health, or Untargetable, or any of that nonsense, it goes wrong very quickly indeed. So now it looks to me like it's gearing up to be more and more likely to be a cold blood turn here for Loosefield.
The issue for Loosefield is that he doesn't really want to go wide with all of these one-drops because Spreading Plague will be a thing in a couple turns' time.
Please! Loosefield laughs in the face of Spreading Plagues. He has Void Ripper by his side.
Yeah, that's true. It's a pretty good counter, especially when Argent Squire has Divine Shield. You know, Giggling, the Annoytrons will have Divine Shield. There'll be free trades.
Tasty. It's just a nice play.
In which case, what do you think? 3 1-drops, Cold Blood?
Yeah, he wants to think about equipping the dagger this turn.
He's not daggered at once yet.
Yeah, you know, you want to start getting the value through with that dagger, right?
Oh, not even gonna... Oh yeah, he is, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Looked like he was hovering over the dagger there. I thought, what?
The light protects me.
Not even playing the Cold Blood here, being so hesitant with that. And, like, I could understand not going for it earlier on because you were so weak to Spellstone if you played it on turn 2 with the Coin Dagger.
There's Nourish drawn right at the ideal time. Oaken Summoned is looking pretty useless here because there are no cheap spells to play with the Violet Teacher. This version of the deck also not running Ironwood Golem. Ironwood Golem is uncommon in Token Druid completely now anyways.
Yes. Yeah, Giggling Inventor, I think, kind of forced that out, as that was one of the biggest flex slots. So, what's the play then? Nourish for Mana with a Wild Growth as well?
Okay.
That's really bad.
What about Nourish for draw and try and dig for that Spreading Plague?
Yeah, that is what Thailand is looking for, but your opponent has just played 4 1-drops. They didn't dagger. That is so fishy. That is the fishiest of plays.
I mean, even Spreading Plague is still fine, right? Like, it still allows them to develop both Arcane Tyrants as well. It still deals with this board. It doesn't allow Loosefield to trade away everything for free. Unfortunately, no Spreading Plague drawn, so the Arcane Tyrants are played now. And hey, that's still fine. 2 0-mana 4/4s to try and put a stop to these current threats. However, Loosefield's hand and board is just looking better and better.
Yeah, I still disagree with not playing the Cold Blood last turn, it has to be said. It would have made Thailand's play here a lot worse. Because so what if they hit Spellstone off? They've clearly represented that they probably don't have a Spellstone, right? Or even if they did, it wouldn't have been that good here, because they couldn't have gone for draw. They couldn't have played Giggling Inventor then as well. Like, I don't know. We've connected for 8 damage to face at this point.
And now the Cold Bloods are quite awkward, because Loosefield does not want to play Void Ripper before Spreading Plague hits the board.
He does not.
So I guess the play is just Giggling Inventor.
That's so much damage that you've missed now, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you can't take this game out forever, because Void Ripper, yes, it deals with 1 plague. But
Dagger, then both
then you've lost your whole board.
Ugh.
You have to play the Giggling here. Everything else is just so wildly inefficient. And this is still a good turn. Because like you said, even in the worst case scenario of seeing a plague, you can quite happily drop the Void Ripper.
Yeah, sort of, but again, only the Divine Shield survive, and Loosefield would still lose almost his entire board if Spreading Plague comes down.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
However, there is no plague, is what is worth pointing out here for Thailand. Their only... Well, actually, no, I still don't want to say their only real option is Giggling Inventor. That is what I'm looking at most heavily here, because it protects them against the likes of Leroy Jenkins, Cold Blood, a Fungal Mancer perhaps. It can soak up a lot of damage. But maybe they think they want to go for Oaken Summons here to go nice and wide on the board. We can see, however, that would be 4, 5, one of the Annoyatrons would be killed off. 6, 7, 8. You could flip that to add 2 more attack on the board, so 10. And then that's just lethal, right?
Double Cobbler, yeah. Yeah.
I think that would just be lethal.
And again, there's no Spellstone or anything to combo with the Oaken Summon, so as we can see, it pretty much has to be Giggling Inventor. Giggling Inventor's not even that good against Fungal Mancer this turn, because
it's not great.
The weaker minions can trade in, and the Fungal Mancer buff minions can go face. Oaken Summoned, well, they get the armor as well, actually, so it's not. It's
oh,
not
of course,
quite
sorry, yeah,
just
of
yet.
course. Surprisingly close though for Loosefield here. As Leroy Jenkins, though, is a nice little extra boost of damage now. You can push, what, 10, 13,
It's
14, 18 altogether. So same amount, actually, as the Void Ripper Double Cold Blood. So what are you afraid of? You're still afraid of Spreading Plague, maybe?
So
Actually, but your opponent's just played a Teacher. They're only going to be getting 1 or 2 Scarabs here, right?
Hong Kong just kind of can't play anything in the hand.
And this play for Viper Pro, given that they gained the 6 armor from the Oaken Summons, I'm liking it more and more. It was a more proactive play onto the board. Like they had to start winning pretty soon.
At this point, Loosefield probably have to consider just playing both Cold Bloods without comboing the first one. It feels horrible, but they've just been sat on the hand doing nothing for turns, all because that one turn earlier, they chose to play all 4 1-drops instead of playing that Cold Blood. And like you said, they've missed so much damage as a result. That Cold Blood minion would probably still be there. I don't think there's been any removal for it picked up by Thailand. There we go.
Finally, them Cold Bloods coming down.
Hello.
Damage through to face. You make it sound a little bit more seductive than annoying there.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
That was more the come hither-tron.
Alright, so Whispering Woods, Hero Power, deal with the Annoyatron, leaves 5 damage on the board. Leroy is then another 6, and then the weapon. It's not quite getting there. That's 13 total.
Yeah, I think at this point you really have to be considering very heavily the Giggling Inventor. But actually, even then, you can gain armor with the Branching Paths, and Viper Pro here at every point just saying, I want to spend my mana as efficiently as I possibly can, because this is clearly a actually, it's not that much stronger of a play onto the board, but you spend more of your mana, play more of your cards, and you can follow up next turn with Giggling Inventor into Branching Paths.
The play I described would have been lethal for Hong Kong before, actually, because obviously Thailand would be face-tanking that 3 damage. Fungal Mancer is such a good draw for now, though. The fact that Annoyatron has Taunt is big as well, because it's potentially defending Hong Kong from a big Branching Path Savage Raw turn. But he has to put everything into the face now. We're running out of time here.
Yeah, and it has to be a trade into one of the 1/1s with the dagger here for Loosefield to not just be seeing a board clear on board represented. There's the perfect amount of minions here to... Oh, sorry, not a board clear. Everything other than the Fungal Mancer. I would have failed the Dr. Boom puzzle there to clear off the board in this scenario.
So many options. Let's choose soon.
I mean, he's thinking about sending it face, but I think you just have to clear it off, right? Pray that your opponent doesn't have the removal. This, with both Cold Bloods gone, is not a hand that wins through burst if your opponent completely clears this up. They just will gain more armor. So I wonder if we'll see Branching Paths for 1 attack, 1 armor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And then can even play the Giggling Inventor. Well, could play the Giggling Inventor first. No, there isn't the board space.
Or actually, you'd probably just go kill off the Annoyatron, kill off the Fungal Mancer, play the Giggling Inventor, and then Branching Paths for double armor. Like, it never gets through to face.
We'll just trade in 1 Wisp and then Giggling Inventor and then Branching Paths for 1 attack and 1 armor. Because then all of the Annoyatrons get the buff as well. They still get 1 chunk of armor. All of these minions get the buff.
Yeah, okay.
They need to buff these minions in order to deal with the Argent Squire now, so...
And maybe if you just play Giggling Inventor and don't deal with the 7-3, maybe Blood Knight can connect that 7 damage to face, which would be very bad.
Oh. Oh, wow. Okay, sure.
Going with Whispering Woods off the top to give them a kind of dual assault here, where they can go for Ultimate Infestation to just draw back up and probably win the game at the next turn anyway.
This is 23 damage.
Or just go lethal, exactly.
It's not quite there yet, but Myra's Unstable Element being played.
Trying to look for any way to deal with this board, but no Blood Knight being found, not even a Valspine Slayer. I don't really see a way that Hong Kong are going to be able to wrestle this back.
Yeah,
has to be SI7 agent on this turn.
You could tell by Loosefield's reaction when the Myra had finished up there. He was not happy with it at all.
So now Savage Roar off the top, Power of the Wild off the top. Oh no, that's been played. And there's only one of them in the deck. So Savage Roar for lethal, I think.
Loosfield can only deal with two of these minions.
And then UI will just lap this up.
Yeah.
This guy's toast.
Well, I asked you right at the start of the game, Derek, can Myra's Unstable Element be the card that makes all the difference? And you said the answer was no. And this has definitely proven you to be correct. 100%
of the time.
Yep.
Myra's Unstable Element has never won a game is the decision we're coming to here,
yep.
Clearly. So now the trading decisions become a little bit complicated because you don't want to give value to a Blood Knight, but they would have played a Blood Knight there, right, if they had it anyway. So yeah, I think saving the Divine Shield. Why not protect it from daggers coming in? Maybe they have some kind of complete nonsense. Leroy into Valspine. I don't know. I don't know what they could possibly do here to push enough damage before you kill them.
They don't even have 10 mana yet.
Yeah. Because if you trade in the Annoyatron, it gives them a target for their dagger anyway, right?
Uh-huh.
So you probably end up with the same amount of minions on board.
It just doesn't matter anymore. Like with the second Giggling Inventor in hand, there's no way Loosfield has lethal this turn, so you know, it's alive, there's just no reason to throw it away.
As Fatigue will very quickly start to be setting in for Hong Kong here, which should just make lethal on the following turn for Thailand pretty much a piece of cake.
Yep. Savage Roar, Branching Paths. Most of this board will survive.
That would then be 9. 9 and 8. Or I'm making stuff up here. 3 and 8, 11. Plus the 6, 17. A hero power as well.
Yeah, I make 18 as well with the hero power.
Yeah, which is 1 damage off lethal with the fatigue as well. So you probably don't do that.
No, you don't do that.
If you can't kill them, you just go for Giggling Inventor. Yep, this should pretty much just lock out the game. And this is kind of a demonstration of why, when played super defensively like it was here, this is just one of the better anti-aggro Druid decks.
Yep.
So many cards here were so powerful. The Violet Teacher demanded an answer and was a great way to trade. Branching Paths, doing what Branching Paths does and gaining stupid amounts of armor over the course of this game.
God, the Giggling into Soul of the Forest combo is just devastating. I mean, you said Board Control took Giggling out of the list, but...
I think he was talking about it. I don't know if he said it decisively, but... Yeah, it's just, if you're running into Blood Knights every game, it's obviously worth considering. But when you see this, you realize what the devastating power of Giggling is in a token deck.
So many options.
As Giggling Inventor is really the only option Hong Kong have to even stay in this game from their perspective. But I think we can quite clearly see.
But why are they...
This is lights out.
Why, I don't even know why they're really wanting to stay in the game at this point. Like, they just don't win from here.
Nope, they do not.
Like, sure, Giggling Inventor, you've stalled out for a few more turns of fatigue. Great. in some sort of warped scenario, I guess they're thinking Leroy could end up being lethal with the deadly poison, but...
It's all they've got, right?
Yeah.
You got to cling on to every hope here. Going up 3-1 is a record that Hong Kong will most assuredly want to be doing in the Hearthstone Global Games.
I guess on the plus side for Loosefield is that because of the Soul of the Forest, Viper Pro can't really play a spreading plague here, but it doesn't matter, as Viper Pro is, I'm sure, trying to calculate if there's some way to get lethal. There must be. There is. It's just lethal, right? With the Branching Path Savage Roar, Face and an Anoitron go into one. The other two Anoitrons go into the other, and then the Treants and the 2-1 with all of the buffs.
Yeah, I think they found it as well. Realized, you know, even if it doesn't deliver lethal on this turn, they can just make the plays that they never really die to. As Viper Pro does take
it is just lethal.
A favorable series here.
It's lethal, including the fatigue damage, anyway.
Right. As I think it's been, what, 2 unfavorables, winning the last couple of matchups, with the Shadowwalk Shaman beating the Token Druid for Thailand, and then the Zoo beating the Control Priest for Hong Kong. And now, finally, back to normalness, like you said here, or normality, as a human being would say.
Normalness, I like it, that's a Lorinda word.
Yeah, that is not the normal thing to say. But yeah, Thailand taking a nice victory there, and that's kind of what they need to be doing here to take it back. If they're losing unfavorable series like that, it wouldn't have been getting much better. But now, poised up at 2-1, I believe they have another pretty favorable game that could just see them right through to 3-1 in the Hearthstone Global Games.
Yeah, Hong Kong are going to be struggling here. Let's take a look at the coming matchup. It's going to be Death Rattle Hunter for Kin 0531 versus Pateo on the Odd Rogue. And we've had this matchup a few times this week. Odd Rogue and Death Rattle Hunter have both been very common decks here in the Hearthstone Global Games. And again, Death Rattle Hunter is just very weak to aggressive decks in general. And Odd Rogue is arguably the most aggressive deck.
Yes, it hasn't felt for me quite so lopsided as Death Rattle Hunter versus Aggro Mage has been.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's just been like counter spells to lock out the flanking strikes, and then there's just nothing. You just cannot fight back because you just die. Whereas against the Odd Rogue, it can sometimes be the case where their dagger doesn't do all that much because you're playing like the eggs, you're playing Terror Scale Stalkers, you're making 5/5s. The trades don't work out all too well for the dagger. And maybe they don't hit the 1-drops. Who knows? They can get a little bit of a slow hand. But again, like you said, it is looking very good here for Thailand.
It's one of those matchups that, yeah, I mean, Death Rattle Hunter in general, I guess, unless it's against a control deck, it's just all about how quickly can you get those eggs down, how quickly can you play dead, Terror Scale, and then, I guess, how soon can you draw Rexar and clear the board with it and start to make these defensive builder beasts? Yeah,
that is the real key to the late game, isn't it? Get those lifesteal minions rolling as quick as you can, because as soon as Rexar does come down, one Cave Hydra plus Vicious Scalehide can just swing things way back in your favor, can truly do incredible things.
Yeah, I mean, Deathstalker Rexar still has one more expansion to go before it's rotated out. You wait until the next expansion where they release a beast that has Battlecry Freezer minion as well, and then Rexar will just be out of control.
Yeah. When are we going to address the fact that I haven't adjusted my chair from Lorinda and Gaskin's cast? I am feeling a little bit like your dad here, I have to say, despite the fact I'm a year younger than you.
Have noticed it once or twice.
Should I adjust it right now?
Should have told you in the break, but yeah, you should, yeah.
All right, here we go.
There we go. Now, there we go.
Normalness has been restored.
I am liking this.
Yeah, despite the fact that I'm about 6 inches taller than you.
Yeah, this definitely isn't normalness. This is quite the opposite of normalness.
It's quite fun. You need to clean your nose though, mate. It's
well, this is what the top
there.
of your head looks like.
Yeah, I know. I'm going a bit bald, aren't I?
All right, here we go. Crystallizer present in Pataya's Rogue, but this is great. 2 1-drops. What more could he be asking for? Well, I guess 3 drops. That's what he could be asking for.
Yep, Crystallizer just run as another Diamol, basically. Looking at the list quickly here for Thailand. 1 Blood Knight as an interesting inclusion there. You usually are running 2 in most of the lists that we're seeing now, which, you know, could hurt them because I have to imagine, yep, 2 Giggling Inventors in the Hunter list for Hong Kong. So maybe the Giggling Inventors on the Hunter side could be the stabilization that it needed because the tech is not necessarily there for the Odd Rogue.
Interesting inclusion, putting the Crystallizer in instead of those techs, actually. What do you think of Crystallizer in Odd Rogue, in addition to Diamol?
It's basically just another 1-3, right? You're thinking maybe there's a situation where you can't play it in the late game because you have less than 5 health, or maybe it's a play around Alex Straza in some silly situation.
Stay with me here for a second, Derek. So why throw the Crystallizer and keep the Diamol if Crystallizer can potentially not be played in the late game and Diamol can always be played in the late game? Surely mulliganing the other way around makes more sense.
I guess. No direct interaction with health from the Hunter. This conversation became even more pointless with the pickup of the Crystallizer to be thrown down. I agree, it was probably the wrong way around to do it, as there's no beast synergy in the Rogue.
I mean, it's incredibly fringe, but as you said, if Crystallizer's drawn with less than 5 health, you just can't play the card, but Diamol is always playable.
As strictly worse Crystallizer on turn 1 is dropped here in the Diamol, as we have concluded.
But Kalaseth for Hong Kong, Flanking Strike for Hong Kong, and Giggling Inventor for Hong Kong is about as good as they could hope for. If that tracking were an egg, then this would be perfect.
Yeah, that is the key thing to say here, isn't it? That they do not have the egg. And this is a respectable hand to be fighting back with, but Kalaseth could just not draw any minions for a while. Maybe you're just buffing all the spells in your deck, or even just the expensive minions in your deck. If Hong Kong is to pick up Katharina, Savannah Highmane, King Crush, or even Mossy Horror for the late game tech cards, it might just be a little bit too slow, and Thailand could really turn up the heat here. But still, like you said, Candle Shot into Kalaseth into Flanking Strike ain't half bad.
That said, the hero power for Patayo this turn looks absolutely fine. Just deal with the Kalaseth immediately. Diamol can't be dealt with next turn. Flanking Strike isn't available until turn 4.
And I think, therefore, you think very heavily about going Coin Coldblood on this turn.
Oof. You do like a good Coin Coldblood, don't you, Derek?
It's just a good play. Like, you want to do it before your opponent can answer it, right?
I mean, last game with the Odd Rogue, that may have been the difference. If that Coldblood was stuck down early, that would have been a lot of extra damage going into the Token Druid.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. Coldblood, one of the mistakes a lot of people make when they play these aggressive Rogue decks is just not playing Coldblood soon enough.
Couldn't agree more. There's no more satisfying feeling than connecting face twice with a Coldblood.
Yep.
It's up there with getting 2 Tetrises in a row for me. Ain't much better than that. Although that is actually just the best feeling in the world. As for the trackings here, there's only really one choice, right? You've got to take the Spider Bomb because it's the only card you will play before you're dead.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that it's not even playable this turn, though. Hong Kong can't do anything, and as you said, that Diamol will be connecting the face again. Deckhand can come down next turn with the Crystallizer for a really aggressive turn there.
Or maybe if you really want to play around the Flanking Strike, you just go Void Ripper. You do then commit a 3-3, I guess, which plays into the Flanking Strike to an extent.
But then the 3-5 trades into the Wolf and it's still alive after that. I guess playing Deckhand doesn't really achieve anything here, actually, with the Candle Shot on the board. It's just 2 damage. It could be held onto for a Valspine Slayer combo activator later, or an SO7 agent or something.
It's a pretty cute play. And it does keep you pretty decidedly ahead on board for the moment. We can clearly see, however, with Flanking Strike into Giggling Inventor into Flanking Strike, the defensive measures for Hong Kong might just be too much for Thailand to withstand.
That extra 1-drop picked up by Thailand now just dropping the Firefly, the Fail Elemental, and the Crystallizer must be tempting. The Hunter doesn't really have any measures for dealing with a board that wide. And as you said, yeah, Flanking Strike can do some serious work there, but there's still 3 minions on the board. Dagger will clean up the Wolf pretty nicely, maybe with a Deckhand trading in.
You just really don't want to let them go Flanking Strike on this 5-3, though. That's so bad.
So many options.
But if you do go Crystallizer double Firefly, Deckhand into Void Ripper on the following turn is a big old chunk of damage that you're pushing through, right?
Yep.
So maybe you just take that. You push so much damage on the following turn.
Crystallizer becomes a 3-1, the Fireflies become 2-1s, yeah.
Yeah, I like it in the end. The play with the Void Ripper, because it leaves a 3-3 on the board anyway, was potentially a little bit too cute, as you are going to be flipping for extra damage, not less damage. And any play that leaves you with less damage on the board, the anti-smork play, is not a play that I am a fan of.
Snap play from Hong Kong here, though, as we've been talking about it all game. Flanking straight dealing with this 5-3 is huge. Worth noting that those 2 1-mana cards, the Diamol and the Cold Blood, were able to deal 10 damage there, which is more than enough for the 2-mana cost. A little bit better than Mind Blast. So, with the Void Ripper, does Pateo just trade the Crystallizer into the Wolf?
Definitely worth thinking about, right? Because otherwise they can take a value trade on your 2-1, but if they're going for those kind of slow plays, you're probably all right with that.
It's annoying that the Candle Shot will get a free kill. But Giggling Inventor shouldn't be too difficult to deal with for Thailand after the Void Ripper.
Yeah, they can deal with it, but it's pretty taxing on their board control, right? They have to trade in the vast majority of their minions. And because they are afraid of Giggling Inventor, they kind of don't want to flip the attack and health on all these minions, because then it leaves them obviously with a bunch of one healthers that die to the Annoyatrons. But what choice do they have? Do they just go deckhand attack with face with everything?
It is
Very
11.
damage.
It's 11 potential damage this turn if Thailand did want to go face with everything.
Oh.
Obviously, the deckhand hits the board first, goes face first, then the Void Ripper flips everything. But then again, it still might be worth considering holding on to that deckhand for a combo activator.
That's also very much worth considering, because with the way it's currently working out, it's probably just going to be Valspine played on turn 5 as a 3-4, and then you want another activator on turn 6. And who knows, maybe they just don't have the Giggling, and you've connected face for 11 and they have no counterplay.
Wow. There you go. Thailand actually not going to play anything after all of that and only deal 2 damage to the face.
Very passive plays, clearly trying to take it a little bit later in the game, which is not necessarily the worst idea against Odd Hunter. Very often the combo synergies don't, against the Death Rattle Hunter, sorry. Did I say Odd Hunter?
Yes, you did.
The Death Rattle Hunter, often the synergies are not there for the deck, and therefore you can take it a little bit later. They have to make all these mediocre plays like Tempo Cube, or just playing a high main, stuff like that, and then the slow incremental chip damage very much adds up. But sometimes they have hands like this with some very strong counterplay against all the very slow plays that you're making as the Odd Rogue.
Giggling Events are just not even necessary to be played this turn. That goes to show how good a position the Hunter is in. Though I guess they are having to consider playing around the 1 copy of Blood Knight that Pateo's running.
And now for Thailand, what is their choice here? They can go Tempo Valspine because it's, you know, looking pretty respectable against this board.
Feels so bad.
Or they can go Void Ripper and ship everything face. Void Ripper and trade also just feels really bad. I think you have to go Tempo Valspine, right? Unless you want to go Deckhand.
They can't really afford to,
Dagger.
They can't really afford to just play nothing again this turn.
No, they can't. These are some very, very slow plays from Pateo.
But maybe they have to just play nothing. Just trade, dagger in, re-dagger, wait for next
so
turn.
slow though. Like your opponent can just play high main then.
Yeah, and then the Valspine isn't even good enough to deal with it. Well, actually, Deckhand Valspine would deal with a high main completely because the Deckhand and the dagger trade into the 2/2.
And then so what? You've spent a turn just clearing the board.
And putting a
You only
3/4
have a
on the
3/4
board.
in play.
But there you go. They're going to make your play.
This has to be worth it.
Because they've still... This is fine because they have the second Valspine. So again, if high main does come down next turn, then Thailand end the following turn in a much better board position. Oh dear.
Yeah, double giggling is just exactly what you're looking for here, for Kin.
Pateo is just looking for that 1 Blood Knight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Kin chose not to play the Giggling Inventor last turn because of Blood Knight. Ideally, he wants to either have a Spider Bomb instant activator in the form of Play Dead or the Terrascale Stalker to deal with it, or he wants to have the Spider Bomb on the board before he goes for Giggling Inventor. But I just don't really think you have a choice here. Giggling is too good. And you probably play the 3-2, right? In the worst case scenario that you have to play Mossy Horror next turn, it survives.
Just play the bigger one first, makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does die to SI7 Agent, but they probably want to use the SI to break through the Annoyatrons anyway.
If they're spending 3 mana next turn on an SI7 Agent, then I don't think Kin is too worried about that.
So this turn, probably looking at some kind of a Valspine play to kill off an Annoyatron. But still, just these very slow ways of playing the Odd Rogue, it's not something that you usually see because most people will be playing it a lot more aggressively than we've seen from both sides here actually piloting their Odd Rogues. But that's not to say that it's necessarily the wrong way to play it. If more aggressive plays had been taken by Patiao, maybe he was blown out by Deathstalker Rexa, maybe he's blown out by Giggling Inventor, as we can see.
Glad that the production team have remembered from last year how to erupt the volcano. It's very impressive. Good job, guys.
Nothing.
Yep, alright, Deckhand Valspine, let's deal with as many of these little robots as possible.
Doesn't even have the ability to like trade in with both the dagger and the Valspine first, then trade the 2-1 into the Giggling Inventor, which is not the way that it wants to be done, but here...
Rexar drawn now, that deals with one of these Valspines. It's amazing how good a position Hong Kong are in. What is it with all of these unfavorable matchups winning today? Well, this game's not over yet, but it's definitely looking like it's going in that direction.
There's something strange brewing. We're in the twilight zone at this point, I think, Falk. Up is down. Down is up.
Yeah, well, Rexar gets played. It's not really that difficult a decision.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of other decisions this turn. Like, Giggling Inventor was clearly not bad on this turn.
Yeah.
But getting that hero power changed as soon as possible is just fantastic for Kin.
It was an okay board to use the Battle Cry on as well. As Edwin Van Cleef. Okay.
Yeah, this is your out.
This is the all-in turn, isn't it?
Yep. You flip the 3-1. Play your Void Ripper, you crystallize at the Van Cleef, you leave nothing at 1 health, so the Candle Shot doesn't do anything.
Yep.
And then you rely on this 6-6 to carry you through to the end of the game.
Just a 6-6, Derek.
Yeah, it's not good.
Then next turn, Pateo daggers up, and the following turn, Baku hits the board. That's actually going to be bigger than Edwin, 7-8.
Yeah, but through the use of Spider Bombs, Carnivorous Cubes, any other Death Rattle activators that are found, this is just going to be very quick work for Hong Kong to deal with this.
Spider Bomb can be magnetized onto an Annoyatron next turn.
Oh yeah, didn't even think of that. Why not? Force them to kill off their own stuff if they even want to get through to your face.
Or cubed, I guess. Though that's a much less defensive play. Oh!
Even saving the Void Ripper here to get 2 damage through to face.
What?
And saving it to deal with Witchwood Grizzly, because, I mean, at this point, if Witchwood Grizzly is just played, the game's over, right?
That's true. Okay, that's fair.
And this is probably why they've been saving the Void Ripper for so long. But on the turns we were thinking about earlier, when they could flip a board of very low attack, high health minions, or relatively high health minions, they did have 2 Valspines in hand, which would have given them the ability to break through a Grizzly much more easily.
Just cubing the Spider Bomb looks great here, doesn't it? Candle Shot into the 3-1 first, 50-50 to deal with the 4-4, and then you've got that set up for that later.
I think I prefer Giggling this turn, right? Like, why take the risk? You can go Giggling, magnetize the Spider Bomb, as you said, if you want.
Okay, worst case scenario, what happens if they hit the 1-3 with the Spider Bomb? 4-4, 6 damage on board. Leroy Coldblood plus Coldblood would be lethal, but 1 Coldblood's already been played. There's no lethal out. I think this is fine. It sets it up, and then Giggling can come down next turn, and then worst case, there's a Blood Knight while there's Spider Bombs going around everywhere.
Well, looks like they might be gearing up for it. Obviously, half the time, like you said, it works out very, very nicely for you indeed.
Even this is fine, though.
Yeah. this is not that time, and Leroy Jenkins is found, which is 12 damage that can be plugged to the face this turn. What other choices do you have, right? You just go for it, kill off the 1/1.
Okay, so Leroy Coldblood Deckhand was the lethal out for Patayo, but
Okay.
or rather, what Hong Kong's perspective of Thailand's lethal.
And then I guess if they'd gone for Giggling Inventor, the much worse outcome, which is much more likely, is just Blood Knight on its own. Which, yeah, I guess if the Spider Bombs continuously miss the 9/9, then things go a little bit awry.
I wonder.
But now, if you're not going for Leroy Jenkins kill off the 1/1, send everything face, you could go Leroy attack face, then play Void Ripper to flip it to a
2/6.
A 2/6. This is just a Smork player's worst nightmare. 2/6 Leroy Jenkins. Get out of my game.
Do it this way around instead. Deal as much damage as possible. I don't know what Thailand have. I mean, if they draw Myra's Unstable Element next turn, maybe they get the tools they need to win.
Oh, even a cute play that here to spawn in those speed air bombs.
So they can go play dead on the cube and then cube a second bomb.
Probably want to play Giggling Inventor in this turn though, right?
Oh, that's true.
Just in case.
Yeah, you're right. That's just better.
And you could kill off the cube first into the Leroy if you wanted to.
Yep.
It's obviously not a great trade for you.
That's fine. Who cares? You're trading in a cube.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good the trade is.
You have two very nice targets as well. You do want to think about going for cube play dead on a Noyatron later on instead.
Okay.
But starting off with the hero power here first, you may as well.
They are not good cards.
Yeah, Thunder Lizard, I guess.
Anything
or maybe
cheap.
Arthas.
Anything cheap is what Hong Kong really wants here.
Yeah.
And, nope, not great options at all. Did go with Thunder Lizard.
I like not taking the lifesteal there as well. It's
too
expensive, I think, I agree. And if it gets Valspined, then... Oh no, you've seen 2 Valspines. Even so, it's just too slow.
Wow, there you go. Full board clear for Kin there with the Spider Bombs. And this is... Oh, Spider Bomb. Such a strong card.
As, well, Deckhand Cold Blood into Hero Power is the out here, which would have been available off of Myra's Unstable Element, right? So Thailand there, if they had hit Myra's, we're in not the worst situation to win the game, right? Unless they've played both Deckhands at this point.
I believe only one's been played. I could be mistaken, though. Because it was the one that was held onto for a really long time.
Oh, was it just that one? I remember there being one right at the start of the game, but yeah, that was just held on for a while, wasn't it? Yeah, you're right.
Mushroom power!
Yeah, this is not mushroom power.
Fungomancer, one of the scariest cards in Hearthstone at the moment, but not like this.
Not like this. Tundra Rhino is usually the best option. Maybe you just hit up the Jeweled Macaw though for its cheapness here. If you hit Vicious Scalehide, that is the perfect attack total to be taking out the 2/2 here. But then again, if you go for Rhino and Vicious Scalehide, you can just attack face and get even more healing.
I mean, we've reached the point where okay, I was going to say it doesn't even matter. It kind of does because they have total solo, but the fact that Patayo's play was just drop a 5-mana 2/2, it does sort of show they have literally nothing going on. And Anoyatron's now, even if Blood Knight is drawn, they are still 1/2s with Taunt. They still do enough of a job defending him.
Yeah, and the Blood Knight just, the Zombies then just heals you right back up next turn. I think this is game over for Thailand, finally, after a very long and grueling game where Kin just kind of got all the anti-aggro cards you could really look for in that matchup. Double Flanking Strike, Giggling Inventor, Keleseth, Candle Shot as well. Really every good card in that matchup outside of the egg, and showing that the Death Rattle Hunter is not a one-trick pony. It doesn't just need the egg to win those matchups.
So we've had 4 games so far, and in 3 of them, the unfavorable player has won. However, we have 1 game left, and it's going to be an aggro Mage mirror. We'll find out the conclusion of Hong Kong versus Thailand very soon. Welcome back. 1 game remaining in the Hearthstone Global Games. It's going to be an aggro Mage mirror to decide the fate of Hong Kong versus Thailand. Winner of this 1 game will be going 3-2 in the Hearthstone Global Games Swiss.
Do you want to give that one more try? 3 and
3-1.
3-1,
That's
not
even,
3 and 2. This is week 4. It may feel like week 5 because it is a little bit late in the day here at the Hearthstone Global Games
late
studio.
in the day or early in the morning? I'm not sure which way around we are right now.
Me neither.
Like you said, it's the twilight zone.
Time has lost all meaning here.
But yeah, and I believe this is pretty much a mirror in the truest sense as well. Both of these decks are running one Flame Geyser. I think they're actually card for card.
One Flame Geyser is interesting. We saw that yesterday, I believe, as well in one of the Tempo Mages that we were looking at. And it could be pretty good in this matchup. A way to, if you have Sorcerer's Apprentices on the board, swing the board back in your favor, whilst also developing a little bit of a minion presence as well, protecting you against the likes of Cinderstorm or Arcane Missiles. But at the same time, there is a reason why it has not been seen throughout Hearthstone's history. Flame Geyser is objectively a fairly low power level card, so they are going to have to find some pretty unique and creative uses of it if they are going to be getting the enough value out of it to warrant a spot in their deck.
Yep. As we jump into the game, and I guess it's the hunt for Mana Worm right now. On the coin, having Kirin Mage and Counterspell in the opening actually is something that Blitzchunk's probably going to want to keep hold of.
Does make the rest of his hand a little bit weird, though, because you really want to go coin Kirin Mage, which makes both Sorcerer's Apprentices a little bit worse. Lest you just go coin Apprentice, Kirin Counterspell, which is not a bad curve whatsoever. But even then, if you're going for coin double Apprentice, you do want to have some spells to go along with it. So there is some pretty strong counter synergy, actually, I would say, between the left and right-hand side of Blitzchunk's starting mulligan hand.
Cappy, on the other hand, just needs to throw away everything and hunt for these for the one drop, I suppose. Okay, a Lunath. This is something we've been talking about over the last day or so, actually, is in the mirror, do you keep a Lunath? So it's something that maybe he won't be too disappointed with. However, Hong Kong has Mana Worm, Coin, Kirin Mage, Counterspell. I'd say that's probably a good game right there.
I wouldn't call it quite yet, but I would agree this is a brilliant spot for Hong Kong. The Frostbolt is there to take out the Mana Worm, without which I agree, that would just be game, because Counterspell would lock out any kind of counterplay for Cappy to be able to deal with this. But with just Kirin Mage on the board, it's not an absurd amount of damage, and a Lunath can do truly disgusting things. The speed at which counter-lethal can be delivered once a Lunath is down, it's insane. It just happens so quickly.
And what can Thailand do here? They've been pretty much locked out of everything. Well, they have. They've been locked out of every single play available to them because that is a counterspell. They can play their counterspell to just sort of negate it, but then there's still a 4-3 beating them down, and then Blitzchunk can go ahead and play their Glyph and start to play more of their cards.
And did you know that if you play Counterspell into Counterspell, the client just crashes? It doesn't know what to do with it.
Well, honestly,
who's counterspelling what? What happens? It's like when you type Google into Google, the internet just crashes.
Well, that's probably what Cappy hopes happens right now. If the client crashed, then he would have a chance to win this game. But unfortunately, that isn't quite how it works. Arcane Knowledge is picked up as well, another minion.
Yeah, you're very happy with that. I wouldn't even be too surprised to see the Arcane Missiles coming down on this turn, right? It's just 3 damage through to face.
The only reason it's not is because Cosmic Anomaly is there, which does boost the Arcane Missiles significantly later on.
And you could use it to clear up the board a little bit to make sure these minions keep attacking through to face. And yeah, like you said, Cosmic Anomaly is a nice way to pull this back, as the Fireball has to go into a 3 health minion. This could not really have worked out much worse for Cappy. As for Hong Kong here, your opponent has just clearly demonstrated they do not have premium ways to deal with minions here. They are having to use very, very inefficient spells to deal with it. So you just go Cosmic Anomaly?
Yeah, I was going to say, with that in mind, do you prefer the Anomaly here or the Luna? I guess you prefer the Anomaly and you can Luna next turn or something.
It's more mana efficient. If Luna does stick, though, and you draw a 1-cost spell or just anything that you can play off the top.
Yeah, but if Anomaly sticks, you just win the game with Missiles and Glyph.
Yeah, you want to play quicker, don't you, with this hand? This is a hand that you can win very quickly with. But you haven't actually done much damage. Blitzchung does maybe need to reevaluate the situation he's in here, because with Mana Worm into Coin Apprentice, into the Arcanologist as well, or yeah, Kirin Mage, sorry, not Apprentice, Hong Kong did have a blisteringly fast start, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's come out that way for them. Maybe they need to take a step back here and take a slightly more value route than a pure aggression-oriented route.
Keep in mind that Cappy has played a Frostbolt and a Fireball already, so actually the amount of damage they can come up with in the long term is restricted.
With Cosmic Anomalies, though, there is still just enough damage to kill their opponent if no minions connect face for the rest of the game.
So do Thailand have... Well, Thailand have to try and deal with this Luna now, so I guess they have to play Glyph. The question is, do they squeeze in Sorcerer's Apprentice as well?
I mean, what can you get to deal with it that you couldn't do? I mean, what can you get to deal with it at all? It has to be Polymorph, Fireball. Like, it really doesn't feel good. None of these cards, basically.
Flame Strike, is that the pick because next turn you can do it?
You've seen a counterspell from your opponent. There is only one counterspell in the deck.
It has to be Flame Strike, right? Like you pick up Flame Strike, you play Explosive Runes this turn. Oh, do you even play Explosive Runes this turn? Because if they're Flame Striking next turn anyway, there's not really any point in runesing whichever minion gets played.
And again, for those of you who maybe didn't see the most recent balance patch, Shifting Scroll no longer gets the mana reduction from Primordial Glyph when it's played, so it is very often the worst spell available to you off of the Glyph.
Yeah.
Behold the tools of creation.
And that's perfectly fine for Blitzchung, I think.
Yeah, I think Blitzchung's very happy here to keep rolling with the draw. You can go Shooting Star, leading up to an Arcane Missiles perhaps as well. Yeah, keep the card draw rolling, right? Nothing else you're doing is particularly more powerful than playing Shooting Star anyway.
Behold the tools of creation.
As there it is, a stop to the damage, at least for the moment. Oh, a stop to the card draw, sorry.
So, Flame Strike would be an opportunity for Cappy to get back onto the board and to prevent this damage. However, it looks like they are considering a Luneth.
Yeah, you're in a pretty rough spot here anyway, right? You kind of just have to hope that they can't actually get anything off of the draw. Just hope that they draw a Fireball as the next card or a Luneth as the next card, even though that's not good for you, I guess. Just something that stodges up their hand a bit. Because if you just go for Flame Strike here, they're going to develop again next turn, and you're in the exact same spot. I think this is the right play. And next turn, actually, you don't even have to go Flame Strike. It could be Anomaly, Shooting Star, Arcane Missiles, Anomaly, double Shooting Star. That looks like the play to me next turn. Ooh. But now for Blitzchung, you could go Cosmic Anomaly, Arcane Missiles, start drawing cards, start dealing that damage.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Missiles is insane here. Both missiles are insane, actually. 2 mana, 10 damage. Put these minions into the face, that's another 4. Cappy's practically dead, and there's a Fireball in hand for Hong Kong.
Yeah, no counterspell available to Thailand either. It has to be pretty much exactly Glyph off the top, I think, into counterspell to stop this from just ending the game right now. And I think with that, no ability to stop the Fireball coming face. Hong Kong, with their devastatingly fast start, their brilliant play to go for Luna as well, which worked out amazingly for them, has got them in a position where they can close out the game every single time. A Luneth did not make the difference here, and Blitzchung laughs his way to victory.
Cappy trying to get back into the game now with the Anomaly, but and hey, maybe given a few more turns, Thailand would have gotten there, but as you said, this is just too much, and Hong Kong finally take the win after winning unfavorable after unfavorable after unfavorable matchup. They have gotten there. What a great performance from that team.
Yeah. I always like to see a good amount of celebration from the players as well. You know, some real personality shining through from Blitzchung there. I wonder if the rest of his team are joining in after we had our Brazil interview the other day with Neves, where he was saying, you know, Race does give it all that, the big cheers, the punches, the shouting, whereas Perna is a little bit more apathetic and Lucas just kind of wants to make the crazy plays every turn. There's obviously a lot of different clashing personalities in the team, so maybe Blitzchung is just, you know, the one who's demonstrating his happiness the most.
Let's take a look at the series that we just watched one more time, and there you go, Blitzchung won Warlock versus, Shy won Warlock versus Priest. That was unfavorable. Kin won Death Rattle Hunter versus Odd Rogue. That was unfavorable, and then won the mirror with a blisteringly fast start and an incredible opening hand.
Yeah, and I liked his choices as well, because like I said, that opening mulligan was actually fairly difficult, I think, because even before the mulligan, he had the choice to go Coin Apprentice into Kirintor Mage.
Yep.
And while that looked decent, I think being a little bit more optimistic was definitely the way to go, because if he did hit the Mana Worm, which he did because he went for it, he was so rewarded for that. Mana Worm, Coin, Kirintor, Mage, you just never really lose from that spot.
Let's take a look one more time at some of the best moments from that series. Electra into Lightning Storm was the start of Cappy being able to take down Blitzchung's token Druid. He did it. He managed to make efficient use of Electra, of both Lightning Storms, of both Volcanoes, and even the double Earth Shock. And as we could see, it got to the point in the game where Cappy was able to sort of attrition Blitzchung out of stuff.
Even as Blitzchung missed an attack with one of the Scarabs there, it wouldn't have made a difference in the end, I think, as we could have seen, because Cappy just got every single card you want at the start of that game. He got what? Double Lightning Storm, Electra, double Volcano, the Hagatha as well. It was just the perfect curve there.
And there you go. There was the Odd Rogue versus Token Druid, and as predicted, Token Druid able to take this one down. Hong Kong did end up with a couple Cold Bloods stranded in their hand throughout the entire game. Maybe you could argue they played them a little bit too late, could have dealt a little bit more damage and gotten through to Viper Pro, but hey, it didn't matter in the end. Viper Pro got there with the Token Druid. In, again, what you said, very favorable matchup, as Token Druid is a very anti-aggro Druid deck.
Yeah, especially against the Odd Rogues. All that armor gain, all that board control, they just don't really have a way to fight back against it. And then what was a very cool series here for Kin, a lot of pretty difficult turns actually, having to play around the potential for Blood Knight throughout the entire game. And some tough plays for Thailand as well. Could potentially have played it a little bit differently, throwing down an earlier Void Ripper, because in the end, it did not come up big for them at all.
And hey, final game. Blitzchung had already won this, as you can see, by turn 7. As it doesn't matter what happens to the board this turn, there's a Fireball in hand, there's 6 health on the board. Hong Kong took the series, and what an exciting series it was too.
Yeah, loved watching that one. It was nice to see some of the somewhat quicker matchups, less of the control decks, which, while I am happy to see some of the control decks making a strong play in Hearthstone at the moment, given how aggressive Hearthstone has historically been, it's nice to get a little look in the past as we see a lot more of the classic aggro decks finding their spot.
We're going to have a chat with Loosefield from Team Hong Kong and see what he had to say about the series that we just watched. Congratulations on your win,
Hello.
Loosefield. Hello.
Thank you.
Firstly,
Thank you very much.
you won, or your team won 2 unfavorable matchups there. Why don't you tell me a little bit about those games, the Warlock versus Priest and the Hunter versus Rogue?
Yeah, we were pretty unfavored after the ban picks and the order of our classes, and so we thought that the second, third, and fourth game we are going to be really unfavored. So first about the Warlock versus Priest game, we're really lucky to get the Catalyst on turn 2, and also for the fourth game, Hunter versus Rogue, we also got the Catalyst. So both games, we both got Catalyst on turn 2.
Well, that certainly helps, doesn't it? But so after you lost the first game, the Druid versus Shaman, what was the team morale like? Were you guys feeling a little bit down?
Yeah, because our plan was to win the first game and trying to get a win from the 3 games that are unfavored, and then we try to get a win in the mirror match, Mage match. So after the first loss, we were pretty down, but but we still had to play. So and turns out we got 2 wins from the unfavored match. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we were very impressed by your play in those unfavourable matchups. The Hunter game in particular felt surprisingly difficult. But I wanted to ask you about your ban strategy here. This was one of the very few games where we've seen both warriors banned, I believe, as the first classes up in the pick and ban phase. How important was it for you to ban the warrior out at the start? And was that always your plan when you built your lineup for this week, building it purposely weak to warrior and then just banning it away?
Both our lineups are pretty much aggro. Like 5 or 6 decks are aggro. So we decided to ban warrior. But we didn't build our lineup around warrior. We just build our lineup, build our decks with what we think is the strongest.
Well, congratulations. Your strategy certainly worked out this week. We will see you again next week, Lisfield.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Well, there you go. That is us finished for week 4 of the Hearthstone Global Games. So we should probably take a look at some standings and see where the teams ended up. 3 teams on 4-0 still, Ukraine, Brazil, and China looking solid. But there you go, the 3-1s, teams 4 to 15, also looking very healthy as well.
And while Dan Gaskin has unfortunately pulled pretty firmly into #1 in the caster predictions, I'm still happy to have one of my picks in Taiwan up at the 3-1 bracket. While they haven't qualified through yet to the top 16, they are still looking to be in a pretty good spot to do so, I would say.
There you go, quite a lot of teams sitting on 1 and 3 though. Next week, they are all going to be fighting for their lives in the Hearthstone Global Games. Not a good position to be in. Again, several wins needed to get to that 4 wins threshold, to get through into the top 16. You won't be seeing many of the bottom half of the screen there when we do get to phase 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games.
And a lot of teams there that were expected to do very well that will have to just win out in the last 2 weeks of this stage in the Global Games if they want to qualify. I'm of course talking about some of the really expected teams to do really well, like USA, Norway, Germany, all very strong teams that are by no means guaranteed to get through and definitely still have their work cut out for them.
So that is us finished for week 4 of the Hearthstone Global Games. From Lorinda, from Gaskin, from Derek and myself, we hope that you have enjoyed the show this week, and we will be back with the community show at 7 PM CEST on Monday. We'll see you then.